project. We're going to be taking a close look at some of the things you can do within your department to make some dramatic efficiency savings. Of course, quite often the key to making that happen is a certain amount of automation. But as you'll discover in the webinar, that's really just one of the steps along the way to success, and certainly shouldn't be seen as somewhere where the process changes stop. Okay, so the aim of the webinar, with the help of Jason Howard from ITEsoft, is to show you how it's possible to manage an overhaul of your P2P to really generate value and address one of the most common goals across the departments, reducing spend while, of course, at the same time, making the most of the technology available and maximizing what your department can actually achieve. So before I hand you over to Jason, let me just tell you a little bit about your presenters today. So Jason's worked in the document automation and management industry for about 18 years or so, and more specifically in P2P automation for more than 10. He's worked at some of the biggest companies in the world, helping them to optimize their P2P processes and helping them to dramatically reduce costs. He believes that although a high-end solution is important, the project planning element is really crucial in making sure that you're able to achieve your business goals. And I'm Ellen, editor of APN, and my aim really, as I'm sure some of you are already aware, is to offer finance professionals a forum where they can address and find out how to overcome some of the challenges and issues facing finance departments, as well as things like topical news, jobs, surveys, and opportunities to join in with webinars and events as well. Right, so just before we begin, here's a quick look at the agenda of what we'll be discussing today. Jason's going to give you a brief overview of ITEsoft before talking through data capture and some of the common issues we all face when going through an overhaul of the P2P process in our organizations. We'll be looking at supplier engagement, reporting, and of course the importance of raising departmental processing visibility. And I hope you're going to pick up some really great gems of information to help you on your own P2P journeys. Okay, so just before I hand you over, this session is interactive, and you do have the opportunity to ask questions by adding them into the free text box over on the right-hand side there on your GoToWebinar panel. So if you type these in as they occur to you during the course of the webinar, I'll ask Jason to address them at the end. So let me now pass you over to Jason Howard of ITEsoft. Over to you, Jason.
Thank you, Ellen. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Jason Howard, as Ellen said there, and I'm just going to give you a quick brief overview on ITEsoft as a company. We are a global software company founded back in 1984 with our head offices based out of the south of France in a place called Marg. What makes ITEsoft unusual as a software player in the marketplace is that we've been around in the document automation marketplace for quite a long time now, well over 25 plus years. And what that means and brings to the business is our depth of knowledge and experience in being able to handle people's documents and automate them through and utilize them in their business process. Also, with what makes ITEsoft is 200 plus employees across the group, and our UK office is based out of Farnham near Guildford. We are also listed on the Eurolist in Paris as a public company, and our main focus when being a software company is obviously we do have to heavily invest in R&D, and we put over 25% of our turnover annually back into R&D to hopefully keep us at the top end of the document automation marketplace. And one final point is that really in this industry what customers want to see is they want to get a return on investment, and typically with our customers between 50 and 60% saving is made in manual effort compared when implementing one of our solutions. We have over 650 customers globally, and they process in excess of 1 billion documents annually. Anyway, that was a brief history on IT soft, but let's get back onto the sort of the main points and focus, I suppose, of the webinar. And it's a real interesting point when people say, well, scanning. Everyone talks about scanning. They say, oh, do we understand scanning? Yes, we understand scanning. But today what we're talking about is invoice capture. And there is a big difference when you look at it between capture and scanning. Scanning, everyone can do. Everyone's known about scanning for many years. But invoice capture, well, that's different in the sense that what we're really interested in here is actually capturing the data. And it's the data on those invoices, your invoices, that are very key to be able to get that information correctly and successfully so that you can make use of it. And that's what we're really focusing on today. And more importantly, when we focus on that capturing of that data and processing of that data to make a successful project, what we look at is there are many forms of the way invoices come in today. They may come in, for example, as electronic invoices. And let's just focus on that because I think everyone's, when they talk about an electronic invoice, I think a lot of people can get confused with what an electronic invoice is, because an electronic invoice is a broad term. You could be talking about an EDI invoice, okay? And when we talk about an EDI invoice, I think let's take it to basics. What we really mean with an EDI invoice is an XML, a data-only document that's transferred. But you've also got invoices that come in via email. They could be classed as electronic invoice too. And I think we're seeing more and more today that a lot of people are receiving invoices via email and want to be able to process them. But then you've also got a paper invoice. And once you scan it, well, in essence, that's an electronic invoice as well. So really what we're talking about when we're taking electronic invoices is really an invoice of any format. And when you're looking at a solution out there, you want a solution that can handle an invoice, whatever format it comes into. And that's key and important. And also when we focus on, once we've decided that we can handle any type of invoice document, that's important. But then we've also got to look at why invoice capture versus invoice automation. Well, invoice capture just says, hey, we've got these invoices, we capture the data off them, and then we put them into your finance system. But invoice automation says, well, actually, what I want to do is I want to capture the data off the invoice, but more importantly, I want to validate it, I want to make sure it's correct, I want to make sure I've got the right information before I go and put it into my finance system. And it's invoice automation that's going to give you benefit. Invoice capture is just going to give you the information off the invoice. And it's invoice automation, when you're looking and thinking about doing a P2P project, is where you want to be. There's a lot of invoice capture technology out there, but invoice automation is what's going to give you your benefit and your visibility across the process. Then people also come on to talking about, when we're looking at invoice automation or invoice capture, the ability to capture 100% capture rates. Is that really important? You know, if we capture everything, well, yeah, you can capture everything. But more importantly, in capturing everything, that's one thing. But you want to be able to show what you capture, is it really what's written on the invoice or the document that you want to capture? Or is it more importantly, you want to take that piece of information and you want to verify it? So when I look at an invoice and I make sure I've got the right vendor, I've got the right purchase order number on there for that vendor, have I got the right date of the invoice, have I got the right invoice number? All this information might be on there, but is it actually in the format and is it verified and correct for what I want to then put and make use of in my business process? So it's not just about capturing the data, it's about capturing the data first and foremost, but more importantly, verifying and correcting that data so it's in the right format, correct for what I want it for my purpose and my business process. And that's very key. And then also, are we picking the right pieces of information? The right pieces of information say we've got the header information on an invoice, you've got the footer, you've got the tax, you've got the multi-VAT, you might have the line item information, but all of that you want to collate and put into the right fields of information for you against things that you want to make sure are correct. Are you happy with tolerances? Are you happy with early payment discounts? All of this bits of information that are part of your business process making sure that you capture that information correctly and succinctly, so that in doing that, you make sure you have a successful automation, capture, invoice automation solution. But let's not hover on that for too long. Let's also think about, when you're looking at a P2P project, you also got the scenario where there are common challenges when looking at a project, and people want to look at those challenges and say, well, what is important? It's not just about buying a piece of technology, because in buying a piece of technology, that's not going to solve and give me invoice automation. We've looked at a scenario where we say, well, let's look at a project in its entity and say, what do we need to first and foremost do to make sure that we have a successful invoice automation project in P2P? So I know it sounds simple, but prioritize your objectives. When prioritizing your objectives for a project, it's about your long-term strategy and solution that you wish to put in place. Make sure that when you're looking at a project on whole, make sure that there is going to be a quick win. That can be an obvious thing to say, but sometimes looking back at some of the clients that we've had, making sure that they have a clear objective and a clear target for their project means that their implementation and their return on investment will be achieved. Also, more importantly, you need to assess the impact on your organization. What do we mean by that? Well, I think a lot of people, when they're looking at projects like this, they look at the technology first and foremost. Can the technology do this? Can it do that? How's it going to do this? How's it going to fit to our business process? How is it going to make our department, our area, our organization successful? How is it going to give us more efficiency and benefit? All of the things that people look at, and they focus heavily on the technology. But what they don't take into consideration is the impact that this technology is going to have on that department and the impact it's going to have in terms of on the people. So make sure that you've defined which people are going to be part of the project, what impact it's going to have on those people, okay, and more importantly, making sure that you've identified who are going to be sort of your leaders of that, of the solution. And more importantly, understand that sometimes a business process needs to be changed to make the best benefit of the technology. I think a lot of organizations look and say, well, we'll just make the technology fit our current business process. But your current business process may be based on paper. If you're now going electronic, that business process may not make sense. The idea of the highlighter pen, the stamper, people putting pieces of paper in and out trays, and invoices, that doesn't necessarily work perfectly when you go automated, because it's a conveyor belt and you want to have the most efficient processing. So sometimes that business process change needs to happen, but you need to measure the impact that's going to have on your staff, and are they willing to accept the change to make a successful project. And then another key point on that area is project management. It can be very easily overlooked, and it is a very key part of a successful project, which is when you are looking at doing one of these projects, you wish and want really it to be managed successfully. And the only way really to do that is to have a dedicated project manager. All too often we see a scenario where when clients look to invest in putting forward a project like this, that they normally nominate, and it's quite common, the accounts payable manager to be the project manager. Now he or she has already got a full-time job anyway, and they're managing that, plus probably taking on board the fact that a new piece of technology is coming in, but also to ask them to be a project manager when normally they don't have those project management skills is normally not a good use of their skills, and they're not designed to do that. And again, selecting a dedicated project manager is always a very, very key success criteria that would make a quick win happen with your project. And then finally, lead the change, don't leave it to chance. Okay, it's a bit of a simple statement to say, but it is very crucial that the organization, the department, everyone is bought in, that everyone is encouraged to adopt the change. Because if people don't adopt the change, again, you can have people saying and feeling that they're being forced to change their way of working that they've done for many years, and they don't understand why, and it can cause stress and strain on the department. So you want people to be bought in, and the way they're bought in is that they're led from their senior management down through the management all the way through the organization that this is the way forward, and they're encouraged to have active input on the project. And that way you will have a successful purchase to pay project. Now, just finally on that point, we have actually produced a white paper on that exact topic, and you can easily get hold of it from our website or download it, or we can have it sent to you afterwards if you request. Right then, so let's move on to some of the areas that also are key in terms of when you're looking at purchase to pay. What are the other areas that people say and ask, what is important? What else is important that we can do? And all too often with these solutions, with the technology that's available out there, people on the whole are looking at the technology. But what is key with doing an automated project is that you have visibility. You have the suppliers that you're dealing with a capability of actually being more proactive with them rather than reactive. And one of those areas, if you're quite frank, is that a lot of clients still have suppliers sending them invoices, sending them in statements, and contacting them by phone all too frequently to ask where is their invoice, what's happened to it, what's going on. So you do need to think that some form of supplier collaboration could be very key. And we'll come on to that point with the idea of maybe where we're moving and the market's moving into sort of supplier portals, and I'll touch on that subject in a minute. You've also got visibility. Visibility from a finance department's point of view becomes very key. The idea here that it's very important that you can actually see the end-to-end process, that you have consistent reporting, that you know where every invoice is at any one time, what you've done with it, has it been rejected, is it on hold, has it been processed, has it been paid, is it out with someone because it's got a discrepancy, has it not been goods receipted, where is it, what's it doing, what have I got access to do with it to get it to being paid. That's not only good for you looking after those invoices, but more importantly, that's quite key from a point of view of your suppliers as well to know that information. And so we'll come on to both those areas that are very key in terms of visibility. But also on another angle of visibility is auditability. So all organizations have the auditors and the auditability. You want to be able to see your financial liabilities. You want to be able to actually know what invoices are outstanding, how much I've got on my ledger, how many invoices I've processed, what that financial liability is, but more importantly, across that whole area, can I absolutely say, this is when I received the invoices, this is what I did to it, this is when I paid it, this is when it was processed, etc., etc. So it's not just being able to see it, but also know who did what, where, and when. Again, very key. And all of these things, those sort of visibility, audibility, and to a point supply collaboration, take those three things in conjunction, and these really give you control of your business process, which fundamentally you want from an AP point of view, But more importantly, as you go up the chain to a finance director or a shared service center director, they want to be able to see and have control of their business process. You don't want the business process to be controlling you. You want to have control of it so that you can change direction with your business as you need to. And this comes on, I suppose, to the next and final point here, which is we all realize nowadays that everybody does everything on their mobile phone. You know, a few years back, it was becoming common for people to have, you know, smartphones. And as smartphones got better, so everyone now takes it for granted that they have all their email, all their contacts, they have everything they could possibly want to access from their mobile phone. So it's now becoming very key that not only can you access your email and all of your social media and everything from your mobile phone, but more importantly now, you can access systems like this from your mobile phone as well. So that on remote sites, we see clients that maybe don't have a network connection, don't have a laptop, but they have their mobile phone, and they still want to be part of that business process. And so that is very key as well. As I earlier mentioned, we talked about supplier collaboration. So I suppose when we're talking about supplier collaboration, as I alluded to earlier on the first point of the last slide, supplier portals. This is a way where you can be more with your suppliers rather than reactive. Rather than them phoning you, how about the scenario where you can actually allow them a place where they can see what they've sent you, what invoices have come into them. You give them secure access. You're giving them that visibility of their invoices and what you're doing with them. But let's not dwell on talking about it. What I'm going to do now is just give you a quick run through of the supplier portal and to give you a scenario of how that would look. So imagine here is the supplier portal. Imagine that I am logging in. I use my email address as my login. I then would put in my password, log in, and then here I am into my supplier portal. In here, I am WDG as the example, and I'm the AP manager. I can see the invoices. I can page through them. These are all the invoices that I have sent in. And if I want to, from here, I can see the status of those invoices. I also have the ability within here to actually go and look at any one invoice. And I can go and see and select them by amount, by date, and by status, or invoice number as well. If I want to pick a specific invoice, I can select it, I can drill down, and if it's been paid, I can also down the bottom here see the payment information. I also have the capability within here, if I so wish, I can go to the control panel and I can decide that maybe other people within inside WDG would also like access to the invoices. As I'm the AP manager, maybe I also want my AP supervisor to have access. And from here I can go and select the control panel, and I can give access to one of my staff members. I fill in their details, I select them, and I can give them access. This will allow other people, then I am controlling the visibility of my invoices that I've sent into someone, hopefully stopping me from phoning said organisation to ask the status of what's going on. So this would allow, a portal like this would allow you to reduce your costs, hopefully in the amount of time spent with suppliers phoning you, improve your supplier relationships and collaboration, and it also obviously will increase response times. And these are key factors when evaluating a P2P project, and it's something definitely worth to consider. So also, we talked about visibility and auditability. We also touched on the idea that that type of visibility and auditability, you need a tool. And obviously, most people know those as reporting tools. And what are the types of reporting tools that you must look at, and why are these important? You know, so that these reporting tools give you that visibility to supervise your accounts payable process. It gives you the visibility to track all of the invoices that you have received, to see where they are at any time, to see what's happened to them, and also to see how well you are doing against maybe your own internal KPIs, to set, you know, that you want to process a certain amount of invoices by a certain time, that you want to have them inside your finance system by a certain time, so that you can manage your business process. And so in essence, you can achieve a competitive return on investment for your project, which obviously is key for most organizations to justify why they're doing invoice automation. This gives you a complete tool to analyze and report across your organization. And again, rather than talking about it, I've got a video for you. Okay, and here is the purchase to pay portal. Okay, which we're going to then go into the reporting dashboard. In here, we have the visibility to see all of our invoices. We can search by legal entity, purchase order, non-purchase order receipt invoices for a specific date or across a date range. We can show all the invoices graphically in a pie chart to show the volume of types of invoices we've received. We can also drill down to see actual invoices in the bottom section here, to show where they are and what status they're at. And we can see the volume of invoices at the various states, whether it be processed, rejected, on hold, etc. We also have the capability to do a specific invoice search. That might be that we search on a specific date to find a specific supplier's invoice, and click the search. We can see a group selection of invoices against that certain supplier, which we can page through and see. And those also can be selected via invoice number, amount, status, date, whatever the fields you wish to select against. They're all sortable. You might also, if you wish, in here, want to go and do a specific search on a specific invoice on a specific date. And in doing that, you will bring back the results for that search. You may also wish to find an invoice via a supplier, via a vendor number, via a vendor account. And in doing that, in this case, the WDG invoice, I'm playing WDG again. Once I've found that invoice, I can select it. And then here down the bottom, it shows what happened to that specific invoice. Where is it now? The red pin tells me it's ready to pay. And what processes it's gone through. In other words, who did what, where, and when. I can also see any comments that were applied by any users with a time and date stamp. I can also see any actions that were carried out by those users. And I can see any pending actions to take place. I can also, if I double click on the invoice, from here bring up the image of that invoice. Well, that takes care of invoice search. What about reporting? So on the next tab, we've got a set of standard reports, okay, to choose from. There's a number in here. For example, we've got in here the ability to graphically show you how many invoices we've received on a month or date range, split against purchase order and non-purchase order invoices. We also have the capability within here to show you the volume of invoices from your top suppliers. So your top supplier by volume invoices. Also, you can see your worst failing invoices from your top suppliers as well. So the ones that stop the most and they're now costing you the most amount of money to process. You may also wish not to see the top 5. It might be the top 10 or the top 15. We can also on here go to another tab, which is what we call interactive steps. So this is the number of invoices that have stopped and how long have taken to process on average through the solution. So this gives you that straight throughput graph that everyone wants to see. We also have the capability to see the split of invoices by purchase order or non-purchase order, by month or by day. And all reports can be exported into Excel. Or, if you so wish, custom reports can also be created. This reporting tool, in essence, is showing you and giving you the visibility and auditability that you want of a system. And it's very key to consider that something like this is fundamental to making a success of your project. And without it, it would be very difficult to measure that you're getting ROI on your project. So when we're talking about that's reporting and visibility, so let's just come on to, we've talked capture, but we've talked automation. And when we talk automation, a lot of people, I think, sometimes get hooked up on capture. They get hooked up on that and very involved in how the data is coming off an invoice. But that's not always the most important element to consider in a solution or a project like this. And the reasons why are this. Capture is only one part. Once you've captured the information, once you've verified the information, there's still quite a lot of work to do. Oh, if it posts inside your finance system and is ready for payment straight away, and all your invoices do that, then brilliant. But the real world is that there are issues. There are business issues. There are discrepancies with invoices. And those discrepancies need to be managed. Do you have a quantity discrepancy, a price discrepancy? Or the most common one that we always hear about is goods receipt note. How many invoices do you receive where people haven't goods receipted them? And the chasing of the person that should have goods receipted it becomes sometimes the bane of an accounts payable clerk's life, chasing down why hasn't been goods receipted. So that process can be automated with workflow. And in doing that, you save an enormous amount of what sometimes is difficult to quantify, the time and effort involved in that process. But what is interesting, and if I've spoken to a number of clients, and nearly all of them have said to us over the years that if you actually said before a project, they did a project, which was the most important factor? Was it the capture or was it the discrepancy management? They all said the capture. They got hooked and focused on the capture. But if you go speak to them after the solution has been implemented, and you speak to them probably 6 months down the line and say, okay, which do you think is the most important part of the solution now? They'll tell you it's the discrepancy management, workflow and archive. And ultimately, if they had to live without one for a few hours, they'd live without capture and not the discrepancy management. So you must make sure that when you look at a solution, that discrepancy management, automated workflow that has the capability to notify people via email, to give people a very simple interface to use that doesn't need vast amounts of training, that is very succinct, just like we're all used to email now. We're all very capable of web interfaces. Again, making sure that you've got something like that to make workflow simple, okay, even if it's complex for your business process, but simple to use, simple to track, simple to manage, and more importantly, gives you that overall visibility across your project. What we also find is that the accounts payable departments control this discrepancy management. They are the super users. They decide if they need to change a workflow. They decide if they need to have a delegation changed because someone's gone off on long-term sick, and they need to be able to reassign workflows to someone else. It's them that have ultimate control of the process, because at the end of the day, they are in control of the business process, and why aren't they in control of the technology that is part of that business process? That is another key point. And then when handling those queries, being able to see what's going on, to see if a person, for example, has had an invoice and hasn't been able to deal with it, to go straight to that person to see where it is. It's not like a paper invoice that's gone out into the organization. You don't quite know, is it on Bob's desk, is it on John's desk, is it on Jane's desk? You don't know, but with automated workflow, you know who it's with, where it is at any one time, and what's happening to it. This is key in terms of giving you return on investment, but also key that I make the point to say, be aware of it. It's sometimes a bit more of a tangible benefit that people find difficult to put into their business case when putting together a project like this, but it is fundamentally, from speaking to our clients that I've seen over the years put in these solutions, that it is a key part of the solution. And finally on that point, when you're doing all these workflows, I suppose it's very key that you actually have the capability to do all of this via mobile. So it might be a situation, we all know mobile's evolving, so that make sure you've got a solution that evolves with you. Make sure that you have the capability, whether it be on any mobile phone device, okay, that we do, as we all know, evolve with the times. And so now it's quite common that you should expect a solution like this to be able to work on any type of mobile device, whether it be a BlackBerry, an iPhone, an Android. And that gives capability to your users that they can be anywhere in the world, and they can view an invoice, and they can carry out an action on invoice. There can be no excuse that they're not in the office, they're not available. And on that point, finally, I'd like to say that obviously if you'd like to know more, today is obviously a short and sharp point to sort of success for a P2P project. We do run seminars. Our next lot are next week in Birmingham and in London, where we also do some live demonstrations of our solutions. If you'd like to come along and interact with those sort of seminars, please feel free. You can access the event page on our website. Otherwise, I'll finish there and throw it over to questions. Ooh.
Okay, so thanks for that, Jason. That's a very informative webinar. There has been a couple of questions, and one of them to the invoice capture and automation, just asking whether it's necessary to register with HMRC that a business is now using invoice capture if you're then losing the hard copies or paper trail of the invoices. Is that something that you're aware of at all?
Yep. Very good question. Very good question. I get asked this a lot, actually. This is really this is a good one to ask. Okay, so let's just clarify this so that everyone's aware. The HMRC, up until very recently, they don't actually approve anyone's solution. They just approve your business process. And as I understand it, up until recently, I believe it's just about to change, you used to contact, and a number of our clients in the past have done it and others have, which is you'd write to the HMRC to say this is going to be your new business process with a technology solution such as ours or whoever's. And in doing that, the HMRC would write back to you. Normally takes about 6 to 8 weeks for them to write back saying, yes, you're free. If you tell them you are going to destroy your hard copies, they will tell you that that's fine. Now, I believe the HMRC it's either in process or they're about to change it, where you actually don't even have to contact them now, because pretty much everyone that has contacted them, they've said, yeah, that's fine. We give you our authority to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
I will clarify it for that person. We can follow up afterwards. But I believe the HMRC have been, it's become, it used to be not that often that people were writing. Obviously, as these solutions come on and so more and more people adopt them, obviously the HMRC are finding it's now, becoming the norm, and therefore they're considering a change that allows people just to do it without having to formally contact them.
Okay, all right. And something else is just asking whether, looking at the dashboard, and noticed a tab there called Audit. I was wondering whether you could just talk a little bit about that. How does it work, for example, just briefly?
Okay, so I suppose it depends what you want. They're auditable reports in there. Okay, so what we normally do for organisations in there are some standard audit reports in there, but I will stress this, but for most organisations, they require specific auditable reports. Okay, it's an audit of the solution that encompasses your business process. So, what do you want as an audit? In other words, is this for you internally for your audit purposes, or is this internally for your auditors? In both respects, we have either made use of the standard reports in there that it generates, showing the invoices, what's happened to them, where and when across a section, or we have in the past produced custom reports or shown clients how to produce custom reports for their auditors, and also for auditing purposes internally as well.
Okay, great. And there's been a few other questions which are more software specific and also event specific, which I'm really glad that you've asked those questions, but I think it's probably best to take those offline if I can direct them to the guys at ITsoft after the webinar. Rest assured we will answer all of those questions, but we'll take those ones offline. So thanks very much again for asking them. And I know there have been many people requesting copies of the slides. Yes, but we'll certainly make those available to everybody who's online today. We'll be sending over a feedback form just to let us know what you thought of the webinar, any comments or any suggestions that you have. And then we'll send over the slides to you. And as I said, we'll certainly make sure we get the answers to those other questions over to you as well. So thanks very much for attending the webinar this morning. And do keep a lookout for the next APN webinar, which is coming up after the summer break in September. In the meantime, thanks once again to you, Jason, for a really great webinar. And thanks to all you guys for joining us this morning. I do hope that you all enjoy the rest of your day, and so thanks once again for attending. Thank you.